Hey everyone, Brian Zane here. Like many of you, I spent this past weekend binge watching Glow, the new series on Netflix, 10 episodes worth, created by the people who are responsible for Orange is the New Black. Like I predicted from watching the trailer, this is not a direct, historically accurate retelling of the story of Glow. It's an adaptation of it. I think it's a very good one as well. All this weekend and in the days leading up to the launch of the show, I've been asked by people to give my thoughts on the Glow series, so I'll be doing that right now. Quick warning, there are some mild spoilers ahead in this review. I'm not going to be giving away anything earth-shattering that is revealed as the show goes along, but I will be talking about some plot points that, aren't really talked about in the pilot. So I will be spoiling a few things for you guys. If you don't want to be spoiled at all and you haven't seen the show yet, then just pause this video, watch the show, and come back to me. Other than that, let's begin. In Glow, Alison Brie plays Ruth Wilder, a struggling actress in 1985 LA who's just desperate for some real acting jobs. She's called into an audition for what will eventually become Glow, and she's lumped in with a bunch of other females, many of which have no athletic background, and they're all kind of forced to build these characters and these identities and learn to wrestle from the ground up. Along the way, we learn more about the rest of the female roster, their backgrounds, their hopes and dreams. You also have a director who just wants to make art and is sacrificing his integrity for this project while he's working for a young producer with a big vision. Even though I said earlier that this is not a direct, retelling of the authentic story of Glow, there are a lot of parallels, a lot of things that happen in this show that are very similar in nature to what happened on the real Glow. For example, in terms of characters, you got Machu Picchu, who is an obvious homage to Mountain Fiji. You've got the biddies, like the old ladies, who are a play on the housewives. You got Beirut, who is like Palestina. Zoya the Destroyer, who's kind of like Ninochka. Liberty Bell, Americana. The Glow rap, there is a rap there in an episode, but it's not like the same one. Also, the artistic conflict between the director and the producer is very similar to what really happened between Matt Cimber and David McLean for the real Glow. I feel this is a really strong ensemble show because pretty much everyone on the cast has something going for them. They all have like story arcs, fleshed out characters, good backgrounds, chances to shine. Even the secondary females in the roster who might not have a whole lot of stuff going for them in terms of storylines have moments of brilliance. I really enjoy the evolution of the Ruth character in this show because at the beginning she tries to bend the world of wrestling to her will, but ultimately she learns how to embrace the sport and adapt using her acting abilities. Instead of trying to force her perspective as an actor onto wrestling, she takes what's given to her in the world of wrestling and she uses her experience as an actress to thrive. Her relationship with Debbie, who's played by Betty Gilpin in this show, is very intriguing here as well because it starts out as this really strong friendship between the two that's torn asunder when Ruth sleeps with Debbie's husband. So how will they work together as rivals in the ring? As the show goes on, one adopts the all-American character, one adopts the Russian character. It's Cold War. It sells itself basically, because how are these two going to work together when one really hates the other for what she did? I think while the epiphany is never really officially reached, there's never an aha moment that's established while they're working through their differences. It is established earlier on by one of the wrestlers that they talk to that, professionals are able to work past any personal differences and just perform. They wind up doing that. They still don't reach, they don't fully mend the fences yet, but it's definitely a step in the right direction through wrestling. Mark Maron as the cranky director Sam Sylvia shines in this show. He is one of the bright spots in my opinion. Even though his character is human filth, there are some redeeming qualities about him that occasionally bubble up to the surface. Then there's times later in the series where they definitely get buried back down below. But I hope that if and when Glow is renewed for a second season on Netflix, we get to see more of that humanity in Sylvia's character shine. As far as the look and feel of the show goes, it's Southern California, 1985, so you've got this cultural hub with, the height of the hair and makeup and clothes and the music. Everything about this feels like you're in the 1980s. You've been transported to this time period. It doesn't feel fake or exaggerated, well, except for the drug dispensing robot that's shown in the trailer. Besides that, everything else here feels like authentically 80s. Something I couldn't help but notice from watching this show, and I know a lot of other people have made this observation as well, a lot of similarities between the Glow series and A League of Their Own. A lot of parallels. They're both period pieces about upstart groups full of women from all different backgrounds and perspectives and different levels of ego. There's a cantankerous male authority figure who's often drunk or some other kind of form of intoxication who eventually warms up to them and vice versa. Now, this is a show about women wrestlers, but for those of you hardcore fans who have not seen the show yet and who are curious, wrestling itself is not like the core of the story. It's not, it doesn't dominate the discussion like you might think. There's very little, if any, use of insider lingo. I only heard the phrase "it's a work" used once near the very end, and that's about it as far as like insider terms go. This is not a seedy expose into the wrestling business. It's really a people piece. It's a story about, you know, interpersonal, intrapersonal relationships and personal growth, with wrestling being used as a vehicle or a tool to help further along those storylines. You know, there is wrestling, there are wrestling matches in this, and there's wrestling montages and all that stuff, and there's plenty of cameos from wrestlers, which I'll talk about in a minute. But, you know, the wrestling itself, it's a vehicle. It's not the nucleus of the story. The show actually treats wrestling with a lot of respect and a lot of dignity in terms of its place in society as performance art. Yes, there's a lot of hokey, cheesy stuff in the show, which a lot of characters address as the show goes on, but it's never to the detriment of the product. They'll say, is this hokey? Is this cheesy? Is this offensive? And they work with it themselves. It's not like bashing wrestling for these stereotypes. It's just saying, hey, wrestling does have stereotypes. Sometimes you gotta work with it. And let's talk about those cameos, because there are a lot of wrestler appearances in this show that a lot of hardcore fans, I'm sure, will pop for. First and foremost, you got Kia Stevens, Awesome Kong, as the welfare queen. She's in almost every episode. And you've got, you know, John Morrison, Johnny Mundo, and the pilot as the wrestling trainer. Joey Ryan as Mr. Monopoly. Alex Riley, of all people, is Steel Horse. Kazarian and Christopher Daniels have a scene. I'm pretty sure all those guys, their scene was shot where PWG takes place. You have Carlito and Tyrus showing up a couple of times in the show as the older brothers to one of the women on the Glow roster. Also, I popped big for a scene where Carlito walks in holding an apple. And there are a lot of other cool little Easter eggs for the hardcore fans in this show. One of my favorites is the fact that the gym that they train in is named after Chavo Guerrero. Of course, Chavo Jr. was the trainer for the female actors for this series, much in the way his uncle Mondo trained the original women of Glow. Some people want to know, is this show a feminist piece? Well, considering what the show's about and when it takes place in the aftermath of the women's lib movement of the 70s, and, you know, who's behind this show, it goes without saying there is going to be some element of women's empowerment in the show, especially as it pertains to Debbie Egan's storyline. But beyond that, there is some rah-rah girl power stuff in this show, but it is by no means like the dominant force of this show. It's just, you know, they're women, but they're people too, and you go through their struggles. It's not a dominantly feminist piece, in my opinion. I think, you know, men and women can equally enjoy this show. I just think this show is so well written and acted and produced, and really the whole package is just awesome. I think as far as the writing goes, you get such a wide range of emotions, because there are a lot of comedic elements, there are some comic relief happening in the show, but there's also a lot of drama, and there's some gut-wrenching, depressing moments throughout the show. It's really, for lack of a better term, it's an emotional roller coaster. So my final thoughts on the Glow series on Netflix: I loved it. I highly recommend it to anyone, be they fans of wrestling or not. You don't need to be a fan to appreciate this series as a whole, but being a fan helps you appreciate all the subtle touches they add for the hardcore fans. I really hope we get a continuation of this story. The way they ended it, I want to see more of these characters develop. I want to see a series 2 of Glow on Netflix in the very near future. So let me know what you guys thought about Glow in the comments section below. Be sure to thumbs up this video if you like it, subscribe to Wrestling with Regret, buy the t-shirts at ProWrestlingTees.com, and check out the Patreon page at patreon.com/wrestlingwithregret. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.